All right, folks, here it is. Finally, after waiting 4 years, and I actually even went back and listened to the original episode yesterday or Friday to see if we mentioned the sequel in that one. And we did, because at the end of the original movie, they say that the sequel is coming in 2015. Well, it turns out that was a friggin' lie. It's 2018, even though technically I think this film is labeled as being done in 2017, even though it didn't come out anywhere. But we're talking about the triumphant return of Canadian horror to horror heads with the return of Wolfcop in another Wolfcop.
Yeah, we've been waiting for this one for a while. We were both pretty big fans of the original, and which is rare for like finding something we both. And I remember Wolfcop was one of those films where every time you turned on Netflix and kind of popped up all the time, it was almost like they were forcing you to watch it. It was there so often. Yeah, and we both watched that one, loved it, and you and I have been waiting for a long time for this one, and finally we get the sequel, and it was, oh man. So yeah, this is, like you said, a Canadian film. It was released in the theaters, very limited, in 2017, and it had a box office of $7,285.
If I remember right, I don't think it was technically like released. I think they did a bunch of these like special like one night only viewings, different places with it. I think is how that worked out.
Gotcha.
I can't believe that was that long ago already. I remember, when they were talking about it, like coming out and stuff. And I think the closest it came to us, I think it played one night in Chicago, maybe.
Yeah, I think I remember you bringing that up.
And it was something weird too. It was like I don't remember if it was this one or if there was one of the other ones that came through, but it was like on like a Thursday night or something, and I was like, I'm not gonna take off work to go see that, I don't think. But the other thing that I will say too, with this one taking so long to come out, is I had donated to an Indiegogo or a GoFundMe thing that they did a long time ago before they had made this one, to raise funds to make the movie. And the one thing I will say that these guys did right with that fundraising campaign was, rather than them, this was like back in 2015 or maybe early 2016, they were raising money for this movie. But what happens a lot of times with some of these folks that are trying to raise money for movies before the movie is actually made, is a lot of times you'll choose a perk for something, and then it ends up being 2-3 years, or sometimes it never even materializes. Like if you're, I'll pick the Blu-ray of that movie or whatever, or it takes forever for it to come out. But what these guys did with the fundraiser for this one was, rather than that, they just had just random stuff that you could get. Because I remember I ended up getting a record from the guys who did the soundtrack for the first one and for this one. The Shooting Guns is the band's name.
Oh, okay.
Ended up getting a full-length record of theirs, and then maybe a single or something, or a 7-inch record of theirs too, or something. But it was stuff that as soon as the campaign was over, I got stuff. Unfortunately, I didn't get a Blu-ray or a DVD of this movie. Now that it's out, it would have been cool to, not have to go purchase that, but I got it, I think, at Walmart. I think I paid $14 for it or something, so it wasn't horrible. I'm surprised it's not on Netflix yet. I bet it ends up on Netflix again, because it seems although Netflix really doesn't seem to be pushing the horror movies like they were for a while. Because I remember when we watched Wolfcop, it seems like we did a series of these crappy horror movies that were on Netflix that just turned out to be great.
Yeah. Yeah, we went through quite a few. Yeah, I was surprised too because I know like Netflix was really like the. I mean, Wolf Cop was kind of like the babysitter in the sense that like every time you would turn on your Netflix thing, it would always go straight to that.
Yeah.
I was expecting to see it again, but not this time. I'm on the official another Wolf Cop website, and looks like they have an action figure. That's pretty cool. Only problem is $65.
Yeah, if you want to buy that for me, that'd be fine.
And then they have like a special version that's $120. That looks exactly like the $65 version. So I don't know what the difference is.
It's $60 more.
I guess. What is the heck would be the difference? 8 left. So 100 were made and only 8 are left.
I remember debating one night about buying that $65 one after I had a few beers, and I didn't. I was like, oh man, that would be really cool.
Well, you know what? One of the things I have to thank you for is telling me about that Svengoolie doll, because those things you can't buy anymore, and like anytime they pop up on eBay, they're like $200.
Oh man, I shouldn't have opened mine.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how crazy. Like, and I read somewhere that everybody underestimates Svengoolie's popularity. So when that doll came out, like people just snagged it, and there were only 1,000 made, completely gone. Supposedly they're going to make another. They're going to do another one. I don't know if it'll be the exact same one, but yeah, anytime one pops up on eBay, which it's like going for like crazy amount of money, like $200 or something or more. Yeah, and people are buying them for that much too.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah, what was it, like $30 or something?
Yeah, it wasn't very much, but that's like I can't remember if it was before or after the action figure came out, but Svengoolie had some like I can't remember the guy's name. I'd have to look it up. Some singer from the '60s did the Svengoolie stomp on the show, and they made like a video of it, and then they ended up turning it into a 7-inch vinyl. And I picked up one of those too. And I don't.
Oh yeah,
I never looked into that to see if, because that's what, like you had said, it's kind of funny because I follow a bunch of people on Instagram, from all over the country, just like regular like horror fans and stuff. And I'll see people like, sometimes they're like 30 years old, sometimes they're 55, 60 years old, but somebody posts a picture of like, some selfie at whatever, like, oh hey, here we are at the the gas station in Texas from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and some random person's wearing a Svengoolie t-shirt. You're like, oh, that's cool. Mark Hamill shows up in them every once in a while in different places.
Yeah, he does. How cool is that? Luke Skywalker.
Sean Clark, I've seen him in them a couple of times. I've seen Rob Zombie in Svengoolie t-shirts more than once. It's kind of weird.
Those shirts are like super popular.
Yeah, I see it sometimes too. Some of these older ones too. Like, oh, that would be cool to have like an old vintage Svengoolie shirt. Yeah, I never think to buy one though. Like online. Like, it'd be cool. Yeah, it kind of sucks. The only thing that sucks about him getting older now is that when he goes to flashback, it seems like he limits himself to just Saturday anymore.
Yeah, that stinks. I hope he's got a few things coming up. I'm sure this year too. He'll probably go on tour like he usually does, starting now, like on his like little road trips. So with Wolfcop, do you want to do the rundown of the story?
Well, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. If you're a fan of the original Wolfcop, what would you expect if you had another Wolfcop movie? Yep, you're exactly right. More of the same, but just a little bit different. So this movie pretty much kind of sort of picks up where the original left off. Tina and what the hell's the main guy's name? I can't even think of his name.
Which guy are you thinking of?
Lou. I don't know why I couldn't think of it right away. So Tina and Lou, they're still cops. And, Tina's still picking up the majority of the slack. And now some other mischief is moving its way into, what's the name of that town? Woodhaven? Isn't that what it is? I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I can't remember.
besides Tina and Lou, then you also have the Willie character. He comes back, and it's kind of explained because at the end of the original Wolfcop, Willie, who is like Lou's best friend, Lou is the Wolfcop, and it turns out that Willie was a shapeshifter. Well, then this one kind of explains that Willie was abducted by the shapeshifters, and they, for whatever reason, took over his body in the first one. And I listened to our original Wolfcop episode the other day because I wanted to see what we had talked about in there, because I was pretty positive there was a couple of things that I had mentioned in that episode, because I think about them all the time. Number one is the fact that we got to see, I think, probably everybody's very first werewolf wiener in the original Wolfcop.
We did. And then we got to see it again.
We did. And this, it's some odd reason, it's like it turned into a horse wiener in this one, but...
Yeah. And then one thing with this movie was a little bit, kind of went off into the deep end a little bit with this whole idea of this, what was this, like, this businessman who is... He's trying. Okay, so he's like connected to. This is where it gets really bizarre. Like the first Wolfcop seemed like it was more contained. I guess would be a good word for it. This one they like kind of go into, get as wild as they possibly can with the storyline. So basically, so there's these shapeshifters that are connected to reptilians. And they're trying to... What was it that the shapeshifters couldn't breed? So they wanted to find a way to get them to breed, right? Or to reproduce.
Something like that.
So they come up with this... They end up going into the brewery somehow, and they try to infect the beer, right? Am I like following this correctly?
Yeah, a little bit, yep.
Okay, and then like there's this little wand device that creates some sort of like sonar or something like that, some signal, and then it causes like a shapeshifter to pop out of their stomach, like similar to Alien.
Right, yeah, and the funny thing about that is that little spinny thing is like, so part of this whole movie premise going off of the deep end is really, so to not get too sidetracked, because this all will come back around. So if you remember, Mark wasn't part of this episode, but me and a buddy of mine, his name is Blake, we did a episode on here, man, a long time ago. I think it was within the first couple of episodes maybe, where we talked about the movie Tusk. And if you remember what Tusk is, Tusk was a movie that was the brainchild of Kevin Smith. And how the movie Tusk came to be was Kevin Smith has a podcast, and they were like talking during one of his podcasts about this the most outrageous movie plot you could come out with, and was the plot for the movie Tusk. So like this guy has a podcast and gets like abducted, and it turns out that this guy that abducts him is trying to turn him into like the perfect walrus or something. I haven't seen Tusk in a long time. It wasn't a very good movie. But anyway, Tusk came out, and then there was a sequel to Tusk called Yoga Hosers. And again, it was just wild, just out there movie, wasn't very good. Kevin Smith, initially you kind of think it's just a cameo that he has in this movie, but it turns out that he kind of has this like role where he's kind of, I think he was the mayor. I know it's kind of weird because he was like Kevin Smith, but then they like called him Mr. Mayor or something. I was like, oh, okay, so I guess that's the mayor. And so then it kind of is connected to that Kevin Smith storyline a little bit. So I don't know if he like knows the people that made Wolfcop, or if they met up afterwards when, like, you know, these guys were like, oh, Tusk, that was that crazy, outrageous, out there horror movie. And he was like, oh, so was Wolfcop. We're Canadian, so let's do stuff together. I don't know if that's what happened. But the plot of this one really kind of seemed to me like it was almost kind of like Oh, this was like a couple of Canadians sitting around drinking some beers, and all of a sudden, like, hey, yeah, hey, what's up, eh? I don't know, let's make this movie. Okay, eh? And then, yeah, let's put some crazy stuff in there. Yeah, eh? That sounds like a good idea there, eh? Yeah, you hoser. Ah, hoser. Okay, and then that's how you came up with another Wolfcop.
Yeah, that's so funny you say that because like the whole brewery and then like the final scene on the hockey rink and then like affecting people through the beer and then like the big battle with the like zombie created creatures or whatever they were that were playing hockey. That was totally like pulled right from Strange Brew.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's pulled from Strange Brew.
Which we like, actually, we did that. We actually reviewed that one
yeah.
as well.
I think at this point, has there been any Canadian movies we haven't done yet?
I think there might be a few out there somewhere that we haven't.
We haven't touched on Anna Green
not
Gables.
many. We haven't done that yet. You're right. Maybe we'll hit that one next.
But yeah, the whole thing, like, as soon as Kevin Smith, like, walks on, it kind of, like, takes this weird, like, turn, and then it, like, has this weird feel to it. But it kind of, it like, adds to it, and it's okay. I don't know, it's weird, if that makes any sense. Because so you have this guy who's running this company. I can't remember what his name was, but that was my favorite part of the whole movie was, so they're developing this beer, and it is chicken milk stout. And, you know, they're like handing them out to everybody, and like, oh, here, you gotta drink this beer. And the slogan for this beer is slam a cold cock. So like randomly throughout this movie, you just hear people like, slam a cold cock. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, it was definitely entertaining. I did think it got really weird though, like the whole shapeshifter reptilian mad scientist. Oh yeah, it was kind of like Strange Brew meets Alien meets Halloween 3 meets Wolfcop. It was a very bizarre direction they took it in. You know, another thing we should mention, it does have the, you know, I think it's pretty much anytime you're seeing a Wolfcop movie, you're expecting to see a wolf sex scene. So they did have that, which was, you know, longer and as uncomfortable as you would expect it to be.
And exactly what we had said in the original episode. So we had talked about, because again, to go back to the werewolf wieners, we got a werewolf wiener in the first one. And unless they made a werewolf porn, which I guess maybe they might have. I can't say that there's ever been a werewolf wiener on film before, but I remember, but I thought I had this in my memory banks, but I listened to the episode, and sure enough, we had said, oh, maybe in the sequel, we'll get some werewolf boobies. And we did.
Really? I don't remember that.
Yeah, we totally. So we called it 4 years ago.
We got 6 of them.
We did. Yeah, the werewolf scene. Like, it's funny that you had mentioned how this movie is like Strange Brew meets Alien meets Halloween 3 meets Wolfcop, because they definitely ripped themselves off in this movie, because there were certain aspects of the movie where they were like, oh, hey, let's just do that, but do it like opposite. So the long drawn out sex scene in here is werewolf and human, but instead of Lou being a werewolf, he's actually in his human form during this sex scene, and then his girlfriend is the werewolf. And it's as graphic and as gnarly as you would think a werewolf sex scene would be.
Yeah, it was definitely an enjoyable film. Now, I don't know. Now, let me ask you this, because we've talked about in previous episodes, the beer and popcorn film. To me, the Wolfcop franchise is right up there in terms of beer and popcorn films. This is, you know, it's almost like a requirement that you have beer and popcorn while you watch these, and you should definitely and let me like with Wolfcop, and especially another Wolfcop, the sequel. You really should go with a Canadian beer, I think. I don't think you should go with, you know, I mean, you could cheat probably and find something in the liquor store that's close. But I really think you should stick with a nice Canadian brand. Maybe you have any Mooseheads left over from like a My Bloody Valentine viewing. That'd probably go well. Or what's that one that other beer? Blue.
Labatt Blue.
What's it?
Labatt Blue.
Labatt Blue, yeah. That might be a good one for this film.
Or a Molson, that's another good Canadian beer.
Perfect. And then get yourself a nice, let's see, for popcorn. I don't think I'd go the microwave popcorn for this. I would go more like, maybe like a nice white cheddar popcorn. That'd probably go well. It was definitely, it was an enjoyable ride.
Oh, I don't even know what we're even talking about that for. This is not a beer and popcorn movie. This is a beer and donut movie.
Yeah, you're right. So absolutely, and you should probably get a jelly donut if you want to really go straight with it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Get a nice Canadian beer and try to find some Elsinore beer. Actually, that would be, I think, a good beer to have with Wolfcop. But I will say though that in terms of comparing the original and this one, I will say there was a part of me that was sort of let down, whereas I think the original is definitely the superior film. This isn't like the Aliens of the surpassed the original. I think it kind of went lower than the original, but it just kind of carried on the namesake. I would definitely say that the original is the superior film.
Yeah, I would probably agree with you there. I mean, the first one was so good that I don't know if there was any way to top it. And of course, this one, just as the original one did too, this one ends up with kind of a teaser for another sequel. At least this time they didn't say Wolfcop's going to be back in 2019.
Yeah, they would be lying to us. But we'll get a third one. I think we're going to get a trilogy, at least a trilogy. Who knows? Maybe this could be the next Friday the 13th franchise where it just goes on and on and on forever.
Well, maybe it'll do like what they seem to be doing now with some of this other stuff, and they'll be like, "Oh, hey, let's turn this into a TV show," and then it'll get picked up by somebody, and we'll get a weekly episode of Wolfcop.
That would be really cool. Just don't do a remake yet. We're still too young for the remake.
I'm surprised that they don't do this with Canadian movies like they do with some of these other foreign movies. But yeah, it wouldn't be surprising if some Hollywood director, oh, hey, there's this Canadian movie that's really good. Let's redo it.
I know. Yeah, that would not. I don't think this is definitely not a film that they should be remaking. Let's get a third one in here and wrap up the trilogy, and then go from there and leave it as a trilogy. I think that would be cool.